All right, everybody, welcome to today's Pursuant webinar. We've got a fantastic line of speakers lined up for you today, including our client from SOS Children's Villages, Jennie Ellwanger. We've got an amazing story about crypto giving and how kind of easy it can be to implement and how rewarding a giving channel it can turn out to be. So settle in, get your questions ready, and let's dive right in. All right. Quick housekeeping note, actually, before we do our introductions. If you have to drop early today, we will be recording today's webinar. And so we'll be sharing that out with you via email in about 24 hours. We will also be sharing the slide deck. So if you find yourself just scribbling down notes and wishing you could go back a previous slide to capture some data point that we shared, don't worry. You will be getting those slides as well as in your inbox. Also take a minute to locate the Zoom toolbar. It should be somewhere at the bottom of your screen, and locate that Q&A function there. That is where you'll be able to interact with us today and to enter in your questions. And so if you have something that you would like for one of our speakers to address, you can just pop that in there. And we will be addressing those at the end of the presentation. So if for some reason we don't get to your question, we'll be sharing those questions with our speakers, and they can follow up with you afterwards with anything that we did not have time to address. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into introducing today's speakers. So first, we are proud to welcome Jennie Ellwanger, and Jennie is the Senior Director of Individual and Annual Giving at SOS Children's Villages USA. With over a decade of nonprofit fundraising and project management experience, she's passionate about leveraging creative solutions to overcome challenges, create a positive impact on our global community, and having fun. Thank you, Jennie, and welcome. We also have David Sacchetti from Pursuant, and David joined in 2017 with experience spanning nearly 2 decades. He's responsible for driving results for his clients through building robust partnerships, understanding their unique challenges, and using his marketing and fundraising background to help them achieve their goals. And David worked closely with Jennie here on their initiatives. And so we are glad to have him help to flesh out this story. And then finally, last but not least, we are proud to welcome Ryan Carpenter. And Ryan joins us from our Givingdna team, which is our SaaS platform. And he has experience working for agencies, nonprofits, and SaaS companies, making him an ideal VP for our client success team. He enjoys developing innovative strategies that identify, cultivate, and solicit donors and prospects through engagement tactics, leveraging that technology platform. So everybody, we're so glad to have you, and welcome to the webinar. All right. So the agenda for today, we're going to be talking all about crypto. We're going to be covering some of the basics around it. If you have some just kind of crypto 101 types of questions, we'll give you a brief overview of that. That way we can all be kind of starting from a bit of the same groundwork. And then we'll go right into the story with SOS Children's Villages and why deciding to accept crypto was just a really, really smart move for them, and how it's something that may seem intimidating, but doesn't have to be, and can be a very lucrative stream of revenue for your nonprofit. Then we'll also get into how you can promote that you accept crypto to your constituents, just to kind of let them know that's an option available to them. And then also get into a little bit of how you can identify people within your database who may be who may be holding crypto, and how you can craft a unique message to engage them and learn what their philanthropic priorities are, and let them know that that is a channel that's available to them. And then, like I said, we'll also have a little bit of time for some Q&A. All right, so David, handing things off to you to set the scene about cryptocurrency and why it's an attractive option for nonprofits to accept.
Sure. Thanks, Leah. I'm excited to be here today with you all to talk about crypto. And the first thing I'll say is I am by no means an expert in cryptocurrency or the crypto market, which I think is really good, because one of the big messages that we want you guys to take away with today is the fact that we can embrace this and implement this fairly easily across our fundraising programs. And so I'm going to go over very high level, a little bit of details about crypto and what it is. And I encourage you guys to also, if you want to learn more, we have a great webinar recorded that was done in partnership with the Givingdna, and I encourage you guys to check that out. Leah will have a link to it at the end of the presentation where you can learn more about cryptocurrency and the crypto market. But essentially, it's a digital currency that's used to work as a medium of exchange through a computer network that is not really regulated by any central authority, like a government or a bank, to uphold or maintain it. So it's monitored and organized by more of a peer-to-peer network, which is called a blockchain. And you may have heard that before in relation to cryptocurrency, but it serves as a secure ledger of transactions for people that are buying and selling and transferring. So the purpose of it is really to enable secure online payments without the use of a third-party intermediary like a bank. And crypto refers to the encryption algorithms that are cryptographic techniques that safeguard those entries and those financial transactions. So there's all kinds of different ones, without getting into like a ton of detail, but just know that it's a largely unregulated way for people and entities to use a digital currency to work as a medium of exchange through a computer network. There's a whole bunch of different kinds. You've probably heard about the most famous one, Bitcoin, but there's also Litecoin, Ethereum, Ripple, and many, many others. And they function similar to how a stock market functions, where they increase and decrease in value at any given moment throughout the day. And so as a crypto investor, when you go in, you can choose to buy pieces of a coin or shares, if you will, for lack of a better term, to kind of make the analogy to the stock market. And then you buy in at whatever the value is for that particular cryptocurrency at that moment. And then that will either increase or decrease with value. So if we go on to the next slide, there's a lot of myths that surround cryptocurrency, that this is a sophisticated thing for financial or tech people. There's also a lot of articles that have been written about the environmental impact of crypto and, all the power it takes for the computers to kind of run, this worldwide digital market. And that, it's volatile, right? It's not regulated. It's not as well established as the stock market or, central banks in countries around the world. And, some of those things have varying degrees of truth, but some of them are really just myths. And, as you'll see when, we get into this, and Jennie describes the experience that SOS Children's Villages had with implementing this. Some of this is come to really not to be true in terms of who these people are that are donating their cryptocurrency to, charities. And also what the, what it means for us as a society and the financial aspects to it and the financial market. So if we look on the next slide, one of the other things that I really want to mention before I turn it over to Jennie to tell SOS's story is there's been a lot of talk, especially recently, about the crash of crypto, right? And how the value has sort of plummeted in recent months, connected to the overall volatility of our economy, whether or not we're in a recession, some of the swings that we've seen with the stock market, the crazy high 40-year inflation rate that's going on. And I think the big takeaway here is that yes, the crypto market has lost a lot of value recently, but it is stabilized and it is starting to rebound a bit. And many of the investors in the crypto market got involved when it was very cheap to do so at a very low entry level. And many people that hold cryptocurrency, even with the decline over the last couple of months, are well ahead of where they were. Their investments are still profitable. They are still worth more than they were when they initially invested in crypto. So I think that's kind of the big takeaway there related to this economic volatility that we've seen over the last few months. And I think it is here to stay. I think we are going to see this grow in the years to come. And it's important for nonprofits to think about this as, one of the many ways in which you can engage constituents and donors around ways to fundraise.
Yeah, David, I would just add to that last comment you made. It reminds me of being at a conference, so 10, 11 years ago, and somebody talking about social media and what to do with it. And is it going to stay? And is it going to be important for my organization to be active on social? Well, here we are a decade later, and I think that's come to fruition. And so I would look at crypto kind of through a similar lens. That's likely the growth and proliferation is likely to come, and it's better to be ahead of the curve and prepared.
Yeah. Thanks, Ryan.
Sure.
Okay, so moving on to the next slide, I'm gonna just quickly touch on, some facts here. Really interesting. The average income of a crypto donor is about $111,000. They are acquired via different tactics and channels. And then about 300 to 350 million people in across the world hold crypto at any one point in time. So it's a huge market, and donors that have given tend to be more generous than those that hold stocks or more traditional investments.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Oh, no. And I was just going to say, what's interesting about that. So crypto has had despite the recent drop in 2022, from the beginning of 2020 up until the beginning of 2022, it had a pretty meteoric rise. And if you think about it, not all crypto donors are men in their 20s, but the average donor is a younger male in his 20s. Younger people tend to be idealistic. And with that significant growth and wealth they gained, their giving could be more impactful. And that's kind of one of the reasons people think that they are making such larger gifts, which you treat them as a major donor because on average, they're making mid-level to major gifts. And so that's why we see the generosity 50% higher than stock donors.
Right. All right. So I'd like to transition and hand it over to my colleague, Jennie, who's going to tell SOS Children's Village's story related to crypto. So Jennie, take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, and thanks everybody for joining. I know crypto has been a huge asset for SOS Children's Villages, and so I'm excited to share our story and how you could bring it into your organization if you're interested. So just quick background if you don't know, which SOS Children's Villages is the world's largest organization focused on the care of children without parental care or at risk of losing it, and we help them become their strongest selves. So we have programs in 138 countries and territories around the world. We have fundraising offices around the world. I'm with SOS Children's Villages USA, so we're specifically focused on raising money from US donors for international programs. So we, I'm going to go through our whole story, but to start, we first started talking about crypto in early 2019. We had an intern prepare a presentation on it. And it was really scary, and it was very technical. She talked about decentralized protocol and APIs and overlay network, and she finished, and our team was just like, was that in English? We're not ready to deal with this. Like, this is beyond us. We're not sophisticated enough for this, and had a lot of internal conversations about what accepting crypto could look like, what our different options were, and ultimately started a partnership with the Giving Block in October 2019. So the tail end of 2019. It took us about 6 or 7 months of conversations after that first presentation. And so to start, I'll start with the case for crypto and why we ultimately decided to dive into it. So Leah, you can go to the next slide. So ultimately for us, it came down to the data. As David showed and talked about, the price of Bitcoin since 2013 and the number of users has soared. It's grown exponentially. Currently, there are over 300 million crypto users around the world. And in 2021, there was a 178% increase. It's estimated that by the end of this year, there'll be 1 billion users worldwide. That is 12% of the world's population. It's a huge audience of potential donors, individuals who have this new source of investment and a new source of income that they could potentially donate to your organization. Another reason we were really interested in it was attracting new donors. In the US, nearly 60% of millennial and Gen Z investors own cryptocurrencies. For SOS USA, 88% of our donors are over the age of 55. So we're really good at attracting an older audience, but we were really curious about how we could get in some new millennial Gen Z donors, especially as Ryan pointed out, we've seen their philanthropy, they're really idealistic. How could we tap into that energy that really grew in generosity during the pandemic? So how could we tap into this new audience and grow our donor base? And then, of course, benefits for donors. Like, we could make a case to our donors that if they were holding cryptocurrency, much like stock donations, there's benefits to them for donating. They don't have to pay capital gains taxes on those investments. They get the fair market value of the donation. So there's a lot of benefit to donors as well. So we had a case of why, if you're holding cryptocurrency, you'll benefit besides just impacting children around the world. And we also decided that, not everybody on the team needed to know the technical details. So it's not like you have to understand blockchain technology, as David said. Like, it's very complicated. You don't have to be mining for coins in your free time. You don't have to set up your own crypto wallet. Like this, there are options for accepting cryptocurrency as a nonprofit that are very accessible. And ultimately, that's why we partnered with the Giving Block to accept cryptocurrency, because they handle the technical side. They make it very low risk for the nonprofit. They made it very easy to explain to our leadership. And from an investment standpoint, it was a really low barrier to entry. So we viewed it as a low risk decision. Worst case scenario, we would be out a few $1,000s from that partnership agreement. Best case scenario, we would make a lot of money, which is where we're at. So this is just a breakdown of how we accept crypto donations with the Giving Block. We have a widget on our website that makes it incredibly easy for donors. They can just send a crypto donation from their wallet to our account using that widget. They can put in their address and contact information if they would like to continue receiving updates from us. If they prefer to be anonymous, that's an option as well. we receive a notification that we got a donation. It's automatically converted to cash. So we're not holding cryptocurrency, which is a big concern, you know, for a lot of nonprofits, as we've seen this volatility. If you're not holding the cryptocurrency, it doesn't matter that it's volatile, because much like the stock market, you're not holding actual stocks. You're just getting them from donors as cash. And then the donor receives a tax receipt from the giving block that has all of the technical language and everything they need from a cryptocurrency donation standpoint. And we have a dashboard set up so we can see those donations that come in. We can see the details, if they're anonymous donors, if they're not. And it's been very easy. So right now we currently accept about 70 to 80 different cryptocurrencies. They're adding new ones all the time. So it's hard to keep up with the current. I think the newest one is called Polkadot. But of course we accept Bitcoin and Ethereum and one Dogecoin that went viral. So some that you may have heard of, a lot that nobody's probably heard of, but very accessible. And like I said, any donor can donate any of these cryptocurrencies. It's very easy. There are a lot of other ways to accept cryptocurrency as a nonprofit that are higher risk. There are nonprofits that hold crypto in their wallets, that use it to send donations directly to the field. Those are options. And if that's something you want to explore, I cannot help you. And if you're in this webinar, it's probably not something you want to explore because it's much more technical. So that also exposed you to the volatility in the market. But like I said, this was a very low risk approach for us. So we made the decision. We started in 2019. And then the next step was, how are we going to market that we were now accepting crypto, and how are we going to start getting these donors in the door? So we decided with our promotion plan that because it was unknown, we wanted to keep costs low. All of our mail donors are older, so we knew it wouldn't be the appropriate channel anyway. So we really focused on social media, Twitter specifically, where there's a lot of communication within the crypto community, and then work to just build communications where we could reach out to new audiences through hashtags. How can we communicate the impact of what crypto donations would do? Here are a few examples of Facebook and Twitter posts that we did in our initial launch, just sharing with our Twitter and our Facebook audiences, as well as donors, what we were working on. And a lot of, I'll get to in a minute, a lot of our donors are anonymous, but of the ones we know, a lot of them were new donors to the organization. So we were really tapping into new people and new donors by opening this new market. We have not done any emails or communications that are specifically crypto to our donor base. Part of this is waiting until some of those myths that David has touched on have died down a little bit. We didn't want to scare any of our donors or make them think that we were doing anything risky or controversial, while also making sure that those who are in the space that are familiar with cryptocurrency were receiving news that they could donate this way. And then the other thing we did was, on our website, we really worked to make sure that we had a clear crypto landing page that really communicated the impact and why they should donate cryptocurrency to us. You know, there are some holders in the crypto community who like to hold on to their coins, but we wanted to make sure that, you know, individuals knew they could make a difference by donating their cryptocurrency to us. So through the back end of our website as well, we did a lot of search engine optimization. So if somebody has a random coin like Solana or Polkadot, when they're searching donate Polkadot children, we would come up in the results and have that as an option as well. So getting into our results, we saw our first gift come in a few months after we started. It was early 2020. And since then, we've received 57 gifts, which may not sound like a very high number, but that's about 2 a month since we got our first donation. Like I said, with a very low lift of just occasional social media posts. Our highest gift was $55,000. Our highest gift so far, I'll say, has been $55,000. And the average gift size is about $3,000. If you exclude the couple larger gifts we've gotten, it's about $1,000. So right on point with what David and Ryan were talking about, with these being mid-level major donors, potential to make a lot of impact. And we've also seen with our donations, they really tend to come in waves. So earlier this year, we saw a big uptick with the war in Ukraine. We do a lot of work in Europe with both internally displaced Ukrainians and refugees. And so we've seen a lot of donations come in around that. And then every now and then there'll be something happening in the crypto community and it comes up on Twitter, and our excellent social media person would stay on top of it and make sure we were tweeting, retweeting, using hashtags so we're part of the conversation and people knew that we were part of the crypto community and that they had the option to donate to us. So I mentioned earlier that about 85% of our donors choose to be anonymous. This obviously makes it really hard to report impact back to donors. We can't use our traditional donor journey. We can't do a welcome series for new donors. All we can do really is share our impact broadly via social media and assume that most of these donors who are coming to us are coming through Twitter and Facebook posts that they've seen, coming through things they've seen online or searched, and follow us on those channels. So this is just an example of an impact post that we did at the end of last year to show the overall impact that the crypto community has on our work in 2021. So that's a very quick overview of our story. And I'm going to turn it over to David and Ryan to talk about some of the implications of this.
Yeah, I would just say, as far as implications, this is a great example that crypto donors are valuable, right? They are coming in at a higher level. And if you think about your mail or email donors that would come in at these levels or be reaching these levels, you'd want to steward them appropriately and take them on the donor journey to identify who would eventually could be a major major donor to make transformational gift. And so, yes, much like your DAF donors, a lot remain anonymous, but you still have the ability to identify, in your case, 15%. And that's a sizable population. You can understand trends on your overall population by knowing who 5 or 10% of those people are. So not only do those 15% you can steward and begin to give a more personal relationship to, you can also understand what the larger population looks like as well.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to go to I'm sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and so it's important to build a demographic of what your likely crypto donors, what they look like. So then you can kind of take the approach of a lookalike population for seeing, if you can recognize who those 15% of the people are, you can use your internal but also external data to recognize their demographics, psychographics, their giving affinities, who they are, to better communicate with those individuals that but also extrapolate that information onto your overall file to see who looks like them, to communicate that you have this ability to accept crypto as well as for acquisition strategies.
And I'll just add to that by picking up on, what Jenny mentioned earlier about not going to the full existing constituent or donor base that SOS has. This is a great way of targeting and doing highly specific communications. So, if there is a subset of SOS constituents that might fit this profile Ryan is talking about, then an organization can do some targeted outreach to do some dedicated communications to specific groups that might share something that they could find appealing.
Yeah, great point, David.
So I think that the couple of things really resonate for me in terms of engaging with cryptocurrency and donations. I think Ryan mentioned, first that, yes, 85% of them are anonymous, but what about the 15% that aren't, right? So I think it's important to, if you're considering going into this and launching something similar to this is making sure that you've got a plan in place, right? You want to have a promotional plan in place to go out broadly to help communicate the fact that, you know, your organization can accept cryptocurrency, but also to share impact. You know, I think it's really important to, you know, share the impact that these kinds of donations are making and do it in a tangible way, right? So in the example that Jennie shared, they were able to, SOS was able to share that 183, you know, children's lives were transformed by crypto donations. And so, you know, there's a way that you can use and leverage your broad stewardship plans and your broad promotional plans and put a spin on it for crypto. So not thinking of it as something that has to be extra or added on to everything that you are doing or are responsible for doing, but what can you leverage from what you're already doing to be able to implement something like this and with very low level of investment and be able to enjoy, you know, some of the benefits of the donations that could come in through this channel. The other thing that strikes me as critical is even that 85% being anonymous, they could be following you on Twitter or on Facebook or on social channels. And it's a great way to brand build, right? So even though you can't steward them, engage them like a traditional mid-level donor, if you keep up that, you know, sharing of impact with them and keep SOS's brand out there, you know, that may lead to a strengthening of a relationship with them in the future, right? They, you know, may, you know, follow the organization and then much later on engage in a different way outside of their original crypto donation to the organization. And I think segmentation and demographic profiles, that's going to be key as well with this, because it isn't something that is going to be broadly appealing to your average, you know, 70-plus-year-old direct mail donor or your 55-plus, you know, digital direct response donor, right? Some of them may absolutely hold crypto, but just infusing it into everything that you're doing and having it as an alternative, another way of engaging and supporting your organization, just like Giving Monthly, just like planned giving opportunities, and all the other ways that donors can support an organization. And so, you know, I think that, you know, I think the key here is what Jennie shared about the fact that accepting crypto is really low risk for an organization and high potential reward. The bar to get involved, especially through something like a partnership with the Giving block, is very easy to do, and you don't have to understand it in order to accept those donations. And then, you know, working with us or your other partner for, you know, identifying, you know, potential crypto donors in your data is something that is easy to do, and developing that plan to promote it and leveraging your existing promotional plans and just tweaking them for accepting crypto donations is fairly low effort. So, we encourage, everyone that is interested in this or thinking about doing it to really give it, another look. I was surprised to learn that, most of the clients that we work with do not accept crypto donations. And so this is something that is relatively, I think, low-hanging fruit to implement and bear some of the benefits from it over the next few years, especially with, the stability returning to the market and, potential growth for the number of people that will have crypto in the years to come.
All right. Thank you so much, David and Jenny and Ryan. I've got a few free resources for you guys coming up, as well as a reminder about the survey that we will have at the end of the webinar before we get into the Q&A portion. So I saw a few questions coming in, and if you have some that are still, you still have in your mind, you've got time to get those in as we're kind of moving forward into the Q&A portion. The first resource that I would love to highlight for you is the 2021 annual report on crypto that the Giving Block put out. You can grab that at the QR code there, and it will also be linked in the slide deck that we share out tomorrow. So if you don't have time to grab that at this moment, you'll be able to get that tomorrow. And then the other resource that we have for you here is a resource all about donor retention. We know we've spoken a lot about volatility today in today's webinar. And so one of the key strategies that you can employ in times like these is to really focus in on retention and stewardship and just reactivating donors who may be lapsing. And so you can grab that resource as well to just get some of those strategies in sight as we kind of are heading into year end. And then, as David mentioned, if you wanted to get more of an in-depth view of crypto, you can grab this QR code to go check out that webinar recording with Pat Duffy from the Giving Block that we presented last month. Okay. We now have time for a few questions, and I'm just going to go pop that question panel open. All right. So one question that we had come in was, when you say that most donors remain anonymous, does that mean they don't want their names publicized, or that they're unknown to the organization? And if the latter, how does an organization, quote, know your donor to ensure it's a gift it wishes to receive?
Yeah, so it is the latter. They're anonymous to our organization. So we don't know our donor. I think it depends a lot on your gift acceptance policy and what your rules are around anonymous donations, and whether you'd be able to accept cryptocurrency because of that. I think it's also a large appeal of cryptocurrency is that it is decentralized, and people that hold crypto can make anonymous donations and make anonymous transactions. So there is a lot of interest within the community, as we've seen from our 85% of anonymous donors, in remaining anonymous. So if that's something that's tricky for your organization, depending on your mission and, like I said, your gift acceptance policy, it might not be the best avenue for you.
Thank you. So this one, I think Jen is requesting a little bit of a recap. And this is a very common question that we have come up a lot, so we're happy to address this again. So if in terms of when it comes to accepting crypto, is it accepted similar to a stock?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the short answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. I would just add to that the takeaway, Jen, is that it's really easy to do. You don't have to accept cryptocurrency itself. The Giving Block will convert that to cash, and then it's actually cash that comes to the nonprofit organization.
Maureen would like to know, you state that many organizations are not currently accepting cryptocurrency. And she's kind of curious if you can estimate how you see this landscape changing in the next couple of years.
That's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I can only speak to this to my direct experience and with Pursuant broadly and Pursuant clients. You know, we took a survey and the number was really low. And so I'd like to see a change based on, you know, what Jennie has been able to share today in, you know, the coming months and years. That I think this is something that is very low hanging fruit for organizations to implement with very little investment required, and begin to build on that in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. And if I could actually piggyback on that a little bit, David, there's a recent report that came out from Classy, which is mostly a peer-to-peer digital fundraising company. But they found that the more donation options, like channel options that you offer to your donors, you will see a measurable increase in the amount of donations and the dollar amount of donations that come up. And so they were specifically looking at donation methods like giving through PayPal or Venmo, and cryptocurrency was not included in that statistic, but it just kind of paints the overall picture that the more giving options, the more channel options that you provide to your constituents, the more donations you're actually likely to get. And so especially when it comes to engaging some of that younger population, as Jennie mentioned, having a variety of ways that you can not accept donations can be really key to kind of opening up the base of people who give to you. All right, a couple more questions came in. So based on your experience accepting crypto, this is interesting. It's kind of a tax question. What are the 990 reporting and auditing requirements when accepting and reporting on these donations?
That's a fantastic question. I would have to turn that over to my finance team because I do not know off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to venture a guess, it would be like any other cash donation, because, you know, the organization through the giving block doesn't accept, you know, converts that to a cash donation, and then that cash donation is given to the nonprofit. So I would think it would be similar to any other type of, you know, donation that you would receive in that regard.
One question that came through is there a way to accept crypto other than through the giving block in case they get one donor who wants to give? So I think it's more along the lines of like, if they don't think that they would have enough crypto donors to warrant partnering with someone on a more long-term basis, is there a way to accept kind of one-off crypto donations?
Honestly, I would say finding a partner like the Giving Block is the easiest way. I mean, we didn't know what our results would be, and it's turned out to be really successful. So I think the struggle there is that anything you would choose to do manually, like setting up a crypto wallet so you could accept it, would be a lot of work and take a lot more learning on your side. Whereas if you found a partner that made the donation process really simple, then of course you would know you would get that one donor who wants to give crypto, but then have the opportunity to market it and potentially reach other donors who would be excited that you were now accepting crypto.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that, and someone just shared this in the chat, which is great, because I couldn't remember the name. So thank you, anonymous attendee, for whoever put that in there. But there is a way to do one-off. So like the partnership with the Giving Block is more comprehensive, right? To do what Jennie just described. But there is something called Crypto for Charity. And I believe it basically does what the Giving Block would do, but just on like a one gift or individual basis. So, you know, the organization would be able to use that to basically, convert or accept a one-off crypto donation.
Mhm. Well, and I think that's a good, a good discussion to have, is that I think there could also be the sense of if you build it, they will come. And I think if you think or suspect that you have a market available to you, or have donors who want to give crypto, it could be just a matter of, well, if you promote it, there may be a lot of people kind of waiting in the wings who would give to you in that way if you just made it available to them. Just looking through a few different questions that have come in, a couple responses to some of our answers. We can definitely get information for anybody who's curious about partnering with the Giving Block, about how to get in touch with them. Let's see. All right. Oh, this is a good question. So I think that this is a question from David. Will your partner advertise for you? So I think he's referring to if you partner with someone like the Giving Block, will they do some promotion for your organization on your behalf to the crypto market?
Yes. So when we first signed on with the Giving Block, it was part of our onboarding package that there were X number of tweets and other messages they put out saying that we were a new partner with them. And then they are also really good about retweeting and sharing everything with their network when we tag them. So it's another channel of free advertising in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if I had to plug our services as well, one of the services that the Pursuant agency does provide is marketing around any of the campaigns that you would like to put in front of your audience. And so if that is something you would like to extend and kind of expand out to your audience, we would also be happy to help with that. couldn't resist plugging that.
But that is a nice benefit, I think, to a partnership with the Giving Block, because it can amplify your marketing messaging.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you'd be able to tap into some of their existing networks, because they probably have a lot of people who follow them and follow their work, who would be glad to learn more about your organization.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few other kind of sort of technical questions coming in that I think we've addressed, or would be better to kind of address one-on-one. We will be sharing out the links for all of these downloads in the follow-up email. So again, if you're having trouble accessing some of this from using the QR codes, we will be sharing that out with you. So no worries there. Then I'm just scrolling through. I think we've addressed the best questions that we can address in this setting. So I think without, there's no further questions coming in, we can go ahead and wrap up there for today. So like I have on the slide right here, if you wouldn't mind hanging on just a few extra minutes, we have a one-page survey that we'd love to get your feedback about today's presentation. We always want to make sure that we are putting together webinars that are valuable to you and that are covering topics that you're curious about learning. So please just hang on, provide that feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And thank you to our presenters, Jenny, David, and Ryan, for their time today.
Thank you for having me.
It's been great.
All right. Well, have a great rest of your Wednesday, everybody.